Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, Episode 60. Today's podcast tackles the topic of clothing and how what you wear is a form of communication. One of the most important places to be aware of what your choice of clothes communicates is the workplace. Last month, I told a colleague of mine she looked like Helen Green. She said I should see her in pink.
Hi there, I'm Jen Swanson. Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 60. Can't believe it, 60. I'm really glad that you're here with me today. And the purpose of this podcast is to share skills and ideas and tips and information about communication. My passion is to help you to improve your communication skills and your awareness, both for your personal and your professional life. And I'm really, really glad that you're here listening today. Thank you. Well, where to begin? Scott and I have been busy lately with a new workout and diet regime because we are heading off to Hawaii next month with all of our children and a few extras. And so I guess it was time to get serious about being beach ready. We've been planning this trip for about 2 years now, and we really wanted to take a family vacation before our older two, who are 21 and 19, get too busy with their adult lives and don't want to play with us anymore. So with the prospect of hanging out on a beach for a week, we decided to get down to it. And aside from being really sore for many mornings, I think we're doing pretty well. We've been using a new vegan breakfast shake that's highly nutritional. We were using another one for many years, but we started comparing them, and the one we were using had lactose in it, which I'm having trouble with. It had whey, it had wheat and soy in it. And this new one that we found seems to have none of that. It's vegan, and it is very sweet because it's using a stevia as a sweetener. But it seems pretty good, and I like the fact that it has about half of the daily recommended vitamins in one glass, so the rest you get out of your food throughout the day. We make it with rice milk. We add frozen bananas and blueberries, and it's just a really great way to start the day. We've been having shakes for breakfast for years, but we just decided to switch it up. So we're going to give it a shot and see how this goes. And so 6 days a week of exercising. I'll let you know if I'm still standing up by the end of the 5 weeks. So let's talk about clothing and communication today. And every single day, without fail, someone comes to the Communication Diva website by searching what to wear in a professional setting, what to wear to work, what should I wear in an office, what should I wear in a hospital. And I find this really fascinating. Apparently, it is a question that lots of people are asking. So I thought I would spend a little bit of time exploring today what clothing communicates. And I'll talk about what to wear to work towards the end. And it's kind of a funny thing to do in an audio podcast without any pictures, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway and see what happens. We talk about this in the human relations skills class that I teach at the college. One of the questions that I ask students around clothing when we're talking about nonverbal communication is what does appearance convey to those around you? Now, it doesn't mean that the message that is conveyed is always accurate and true. But when we get dressed in the morning, we're sending out messages all day long through the clothing that we put on our bodies. And these are messages we might not even be aware of. So just think about yourself, what you're wearing right now, wherever you are, if you're listening to this in your car or at the gym or out for a walk or in your home office or wherever you're listening to it. Think about what you're wearing right now and what message you are sending to anybody who sees you. So again, the message may not be accurate or true, but it's a perception, right? And you may not even be aware of this. So for my students who are training for careers in healthcare, appearance is really, really quite important. I want to give you an example. And I'm going to use the hospital example because it's one I'm familiar with and one I talk to my students about. Patients can be anxious about being in the hospital, right? If you've ever been a patient in the hospital, it's not a comfortable time. There's lots going on that you might not understand. People are doing things that you're not completely aware of. There's people scurrying around everywhere. We don't always know who they are. So patients can be nervous. They can be unsure of what's going to happen to them, and they can be worried in general. So if the person behind the counter at the desk is sloppy looking and hasn't taken the time to put on a clean uniform or brush her hair and look professional, the message that is actually being sent is that A, she's incompetent, or B, she's lazy, or even C, she has no clue what's going on. So none of these things may be true, but the message that's being sent because she has not taken the care or the time to look professional is a real and a loud message. So if you think about it, this is precisely why flight attendants in the airline industry are so meticulously groomed and dressed at all times, right? How they look is confident, professional, and polished. And that's exactly what you would want someone who might save your life to look like and to be. You want them to be confident, professional, and polished in case the plane's going to crash and they've got to open the slide and you have to get out or something. So flight attendants exude competence simply by the messages that they are sending through the perfectly tailored uniforms and the very careful grooming. And that is absolutely no accident. That is completely on purpose. Next time you take a look in an airport at groups of flight attendants, I really like looking at all their different uniforms because they all look so spiffy and so different. But pay attention. They are all men and women perfectly groomed in lovely, clean, pressed uniforms, looking competent, confident, put together, and capable. And that is just only through what they're wearing. You have no idea who they are as a person. It's just the impression they give. So I think that's fascinating. One of the questions I ask my students is, what can clothing convey? And over the years, I've had a list generated by students, and I wanted to share some of this list with you and then talk about several of the items on the list. Now, this isn't a comprehensive list. There are 13 items on this list. I think there are many more. If you have more, please come over to communicationdiva.com. You can try my SpeakPipe voice button and leave me a voicemail, or you can leave a comment or an email or something. But I'm sure there are many more things that clothing can convey. But I want to share a few things with you. I'm going to talk about some of the items, not all of them. And then I want to tell you about a little clothing experiment. I've written about it before, but I don't think I've done a podcast about it. And then I want to offer some suggestions regarding professional dressing. So lots to talk about here in this episode. So I hope you stay with me here. So I've got a list of about 13 things that my students have generated about what you wear can convey. So I'm just going to read these off. I'll talk briefly about a few of them here, and then we'll go into a longer discussion about a few of them. So lifestyle is number one. Health and well-being. So whether you are put together and healthy, or you have something else going on, you're unwell. I know when I'm unwell, I don't care what I wear. If I'm feeling sick or I've got the flu or whatever, I just want to be comfortable, and I really don't care what I look like. And, you know, sometimes if you're sick and you have to run to the store, it's kind of, you know, embarrassing, but that happens. So 1 was lifestyle, 2 was health and well-being, 3 was occupation and profession. I'm going to talk in more detail about that. 4 is personality and style. Your clothing can convey that. Wealth and status, number 5. Gender identification and or sexual orientation. Now that sometimes is true, Sometimes it's not. It depends on how out there you are about your gender, and if you are practicing a different sexual orientation than perhaps first appears. You may or may not show that in the outfits that you wear. Now, one of the things about gender identification that really drives me crazy is the whole pink and blue thing with kids, with children. You know, you have a baby and you have to dress a girl in pink and a boy in blue. I hate that. I actually tried a lot not to do that when my kids were babies. But, you know, I was amazed at how many people chided me for that. How many people said, why don't you have her in pink? Or why don't you have him in blue? Or, you know, why is he wearing, you know, his sister's leftover pink sleeper, you know, at bedtime? Who cares? But it seems to be this ingrained thing where we have to put girls in pink and we have to put boys in blue, and it drives me crazy. So those are some of the things that are actually communicated. You know, you see a baby, you can't tell because they don't have much hair, and it's hard to tell. Well, one of the first clues, at least here in North America, is if the baby is dressed in pink, you can probably assume it's a girl, and otherwise, if it's blue, it's a boy. And again, that's people expect that, and a lot of people are fine with that. I just have a bit of a problem with that. Number 7 is confidence level. I'm going to talk more about that. Your what you wear can convey messages about your confidence, your personal self-esteem, self-concept, all of that. Number 8, the sports team or the band that you cheer for. I'll talk a little bit more about that too, I think within something else, within the interests and hobbies one. So that's number 8. 9, culture and ethnicity. Sometimes people wear cultural clothing, clothing from where you were born or where your family was originally from. And so we have all sorts of different ethnic clothings around. I live in an area where there are a lot of people from South Asia and a lot of people wearing saris, beautiful fabrics and draping outfits, and there are shops all over that sell this kind of ethnic clothing, and so it's fairly common in and around the area that I live in to see that. You know, I mean, it was St. Patrick's Day on March 17th for those of you who celebrate the Irish holiday, and it was a Sunday, and I happened to be working at church, and there were lots of people dressed in green, right, conveying their appreciation for the holiday of St. Patrick's Day. So again, it can be culture, ethnicity, or even just something, a culture or an ethnicity that you admire, that you would like to participate in. Number 10 is age, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. That can be a little bit of a contentious one. Number 11, religious affiliation, and that it could be, depending on your religious affiliation, your clothing could communicate that. Right? There are different things that people wear on their heads, different head coverings, scarves, caps, different things that can denote a religious affiliation. There are different outfits that can as well. So that is quite possibly a message that is being sent. Well, it is a message that's being sent. Number 12 is role. And by that, are you a mom? Are you a dad? Are you a brother? Are you a sister? Now, that can be, you know, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a sports coach and you've got, you know, shorts and a whistle around your neck. I laugh at the whole thing about soccer moms. You know, I ask my class, what does a soccer mom look like? And they pull up the stereotype of, you know, somebody in Lululemon, which is a brand name here in Vancouver, Lululemon tracksuit and, long fingernails and bleached hair. And that's the outfit for the soccer mom, which is really a stereotype and ridiculous because there were lots and lots of us who were soccer moms who didn't fit that. But it just seemed to be a communication of some kind. So your role might be indicated by something that you are wearing. And then interests and hobbies, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So those are 13 things: your lifestyle, health and well-being, occupation or profession, personality and style, wealth and status, gender identification or sexual orientation, confidence level, sports team or band that you cheer for, culture and ethnicity, age, religious affiliation, roles that you play, and interests and hobbies. So there you go. That's a long list. All of those things might be communicated by what you put on in the morning. Huh? Who knew, hey? So let's take a look at some of these a little bit more in detail, just a few of them, and then I want to talk about ideas about what the experiment that I send my students out on that you could try quite easily on your own, and then I want to talk about what to wear to the office, what to wear professionally. Okay, so the first one is lifestyle. And our city of Vancouver, BC, Canada was voted not that long ago as one of the worst dressed cities in the world. I don't recall where the article was generated from. I think it was in the local paper. But it blamed the yoga pants that are everywhere you look here as being a terrible fashion statement. And I would say that this has to do with lifestyle. If you've ever been to Vancouver, this is where the Olympics were a few years ago, you will know that there are a lot of fitness-minded people here, and that the mountains and oceans and lakes and rivers inspire people to get outside and do things that are active. We have bicycle lanes, we have parks in the cities, and outside there's lots and lots and lots to do that's active. Now, that doesn't excuse the allegation that we are not fashionable. I totally agree that being in Vancouver is absolutely nothing like being in Montreal, Canada, or New York City in America, or Paris, France, or any number of other fashion-conscious cities. But we really could do a little better when walking around our downtown core. I mean, you go to any one of those cities, and you will see beautifully dressed people, and not always so. Now, some of the people in Vancouver do dress nicely, and if you go into some of the office towers and that, you will see nice looking, nicely dressed people. But in general, walking around downtown, not so much, not compared to some of the other downtown centers. So lifestyle can be communicated by what you wear, whether it be fitness clothing, business dress, or something covered in designer labels. On our recent trip to the Caribbean, I noticed that the clothing was definitely communicating a more relaxed, casual island way of life. There was lots of sun and beach dresses, lots of colorful shirts, Hawaiian type shirts with shorts, sandals, hats. I didn't once see a business suit, although I didn't go into any of the banks. But the general populace seemed to be really nicely dressed, but casually dressed, and very different than, say, driving downtown Manhattan, where you see people dressed absolutely to the nines. Now, people in downtown Manhattan are probably going to the theater, going, to work on Wall Street, whatever. One of the things I thought was really interesting was when I was there last summer, I saw dozens of young men in pale blue shirts with ties, and they all looked exactly the same, almost so much that it looked like a uniform. Everywhere I looked, there were men in pale blue shirts and dark ties. I thought, what is going on? But they all looked really good. They all looked the same. It was kind of strange. So, climate would dictate the state of dress, of course, and what you wear might communicate where it is you hail from. So somebody coming here to Vancouver from New York might be surprised at how casual people are when they're walking around. I know when I was a child and I would be visiting my aunt in Montreal, she would be really upset if I wasn't all dressed up to go to the mall, because you do not go shopping at the mall dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. You needed to be all dressed up. So there you go. different cultural norms, I think. Number 2 was occupation and profession. And often it's easy to tell what people are doing because of what they're wearing. So a healthcare worker is such because he or she wears a pretty recognizable uniform. Same with a police officer or an ambulance driver or a lifeguard. I'm sure you can think of many others. What we wear in these cases can communicate the job that we have, even when we haven't told anybody what that job is. The communication may not be the whole picture, but it can be enough. So, this only works for some occupations. In my teaching job, I wear business dress style clothes, but they don't say, oh, look, she's a teacher when they see me walking by. I mean, in the college they would, because I would be all dressed up and I have name tags around my neck. But when I go out of the college and walk down the street, people aren't going to have any clue what it is I do. Now, if a person was walking down the street dressed in, in a hospital uniform, then they would have a good idea that they work in healthcare. So, sometimes it's subtle and sometimes it's not so much. In my other job, which is a part-time job that I work at a church, working with children and youth, when I am in the church service, I wear what's called an alb, A-L-B. And this is a long off-white thing that goes over my clothes, and it has this belt that kind of looks like a rope. And the reason I wear this is to denote that I'm one of the ministers, and also because for me, females in this job, we want what we say and what we do to be the main communication, and we don't want people to be paying attention to what outfit we decide to wear on a Sunday, because for some reason, female ministers get more criticized for that than do males. So many of the female colleagues that I have will wear like a uniform, an alb, to cover up the clothes that they have on underneath, so that people are paying attention to what we're saying and what we're doing rather than what we look like. So that's what we want to have as the main communication. It's highly unfashionable, believe me, but I guess that's the point. So is to cover it up. And my third job as a podcaster and talking here to you, well, I'm not even going to tell you what I wear for that. But it's definitely impossible for anyone to guess my podcasting occupation. And often it just involves being super comfy in really cozy clothes down here in my podcasting basement studio. So there you go. So that's occupation and profession. Personality and style. Now, I know an artist whose clothing definitely reflects her artistic personality. She's a painter, and many of her clothes, they're not covered in paint. When she goes out, I guess they would be if she was just running to the store or something. But when she is out and about, many of her clothes are these beautiful, flowing, drapey, hand-painted or hand-dyed works of art themselves. And she looks spectacular, and she looks artsy. It's telling about her personality, the jewelry she wears and the clothing that she wears. I know another person who wears only t-shirt, shorts, and a baseball cap, or if it's cold out, jeans, everywhere he goes. He works at a job that requires him to wear work clothes. And when he's not at work, he's working on his car, he's working around the house. He's usually very industrious and busy. So clothes that are comfortable work, and he really doesn't care about fashion. Another woman that I know wears only black, boxy shaped clothes, and that really goes along with her very precise, no-nonsense personality. So sometimes the kinds of clothing that a person will wear goes along with their typical personality. And I love to see the differences in what people are wearing. I think it's lots of fun to sit and watch people. Another one I wanted to talk about was wealth and status. And this one is definitely not always an accurate communication. Now, I know several young women, lots of students that I have, who save up for months and months to buy these designer handbags, and they spend hundreds of dollars on these things. I don't even know the name brands, but they're big monster size purses that are ridiculously expensive. And then they wear them out, and often they've spent so much money on this purse that they can't afford to buy anything else to match it. So they're wearing discount or big box store clothes and shoes to go along with it. So, I don't know what the intrigue is, but I know that when people who work in retail often look at somebody coming through the door, they will look at their shoes and their purse. And it may not be an accurate message, because it might be one of these young people who spent months saving up for this, $500 purse, and is wearing, shoes from the grocery store. Who knows, right? Anyway, I know many people, myself included, who love to find amazing clothes at consignment shops and thrift stores. And for me, it's the thrill of the chase, the thrill of the discovery. I would far rather spend money to reuse something in the first place. That's just my personality. But I really, really love finding really nice clothes at these places where they're being recycled. So I found a really fabulous skort yesterday, and I don't know if you know what a skort is, but they're those things that look like a skirt, but they're actually shorts underneath. And I think I found it at a thrift store, and I think I spent a whole $2 on it, which is crazy. So, and these were almost new looking. They were a popular brand name. And I was pretty excited because I've been wanting a skort for a very long time, because they're really comfortable to wear in the summer and maybe in Hawaii. So, $2, what the heck? So I must admit, I have a pretty large wardrobe, and only because I buy most of it secondhand. And so I feel that I am able to rotate it more frequently. I donate it back. And when I wear some incredible and, originally pricey outfit, I may be giving off the appearance of wealth. And that message would be inconsistent with reality, because that is certainly not the case. But it might look that way because I found some amazing designer, dress or jacket or whatever in a secondhand shop. And there you go. Another thing about wealth and status, I know a man who has quite a bit of disposable income and who wears torn shirts, suspenders, and ancient jeans all day long because he's retired. He works in his workshop. He doesn't really care what kind of clothing he wears. And the interesting thing is that I've been with him when he's been purchasing things for his projects around the house, when he's been wearing these horrible old clothes. And I have watched people be rude to him, be disinterested, until he decided to buy something that was a large purchase and pull out his wad of cash out of his pocket. And the shopkeepers changed their tune pretty quickly. So they were assuming by the messages his appearance was sending that he didn't have much money and probably wouldn't be buying anything. And their assumptions were completely and utterly wrong. So although clothing can send messages about wealth and status, they're often incorrect, because people can be creative, like me, or people can be just not care and not care what they dress like, and it can be a wrong message. So just be careful of that when you're looking at people. It's quite sad, actually, that people are judged that way. Status, talking about status, lawyers and doctors, or quote unquote important people. How do they dress? Is there some kind of obligation to send a particular message if you are the CEO or of a company or in a position of influence? How many terrible images on magazine covers have there been of celebrities who are out grocery shopping or at the park with their children, and somebody comes out with a camera and takes a picture of them, and oh, horror of horrors, this movie star is wearing normal clothes and no makeup on her day off. It's terrible. The reason this becomes entertainment is that this person may have status with the public. If they're a celebrity, they do have status with the public, and there are expectations that this person will be always all done up and always in the latest fashion and always looking fantastic. And I would think that would be pretty tiring after a while. But if you are in a position of influence and status, then it is quite possible there is a dress code or an expectation around what to wear that you need to pay attention to. I'm going to talk about a couple more things here. Confidence is, three more things: confidence, age, and interests and hobbies. Now, confidence level. Some people can get away with wearing bold and daring things, brilliant orange pants, printed leggings, and wild patterns, colors you wouldn't think actually go together, but somehow strangely do. And then other people play it pretty safe and keep to classic outfits, classic colors, or current styles and trends, which is perfectly fine too. So I think the more confident a person is in themselves, the more their clothing and their body language will show it. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that is my assessment of it, is that the more confident a person is, maybe the more edgy their clothing might be. Age. Now, there's all sorts of opinions on this one. When I was a kid, elderly men wore suspenders and, collared shirts and hats, and women wore flowery tops and polyester stretch pants. I don't know why. I just have this image of that in my head. But, things have changed, and I have a harder and harder time telling how old a person is because of what they're wearing. And I think that's a good thing, because I don't think it should be based on what they wear anyhow. I know that there are some clothes that don't span the generations and that are best left to the right age category. I know some younger people who dress in clothes that would suit somebody 20 years older, and it's too bad. I want to take them and say, why are you wearing that? It's making you look so much older than you are, and that's not a good thing. I also know there are some older people who look amazing and can wear trendy clothes and wear them well their whole entire lives, because they just they have that sense of fashion or that sense of style. I don't think we need to don a particular uniform when we reach a certain age. At least I don't plan on doing that. I do think, however, that people should not wear the latest fashion just because it's the latest fashion. Yoga pants do not suit everybody. And neither do skinny jeans. A person should wear what suits their body type and their size and what is flattering to them. Their height has to come into play, their coloring. A person should wear what is flattering to them, regardless of what the latest, greatest craze is. Another thing that I could talk about forever, and I'm not going to, but I'll just briefly mention it, is that I have a really big problem with dressing children in adult fashions. If you've gone shopping in a kids' clothing store recently, at least in Canada here where I live, you may be dismayed to see some of the things that they are selling for little girls in particular. Leopard print faux leather mini skirts for 8-year-olds. I wouldn't want, if I had a 16-year-old, I wouldn't want my 16-year-old to wear one of those, never mind an 8-year-old. And I find sometimes it's getting harder and harder to tell that a 12-year-old is not a 16-year-old because of what they're wearing. So there's this whole thing in the advertising industry, kids getting older, younger. I can't remember what the term is. But it's a little disturbing that there are clothing options out there that, should be for adult women, and they're making them now for little girls to try and dress them up. So, little high heels for 9-year-olds. Really? Yeah, not cool. All right, one more of this list, and then I want to talk about the experiment. So the one more thing was interests and hobbies. I can always tell when our Vancouver hockey team, the Vancouver Canucks, are playing, because I see people walking around and working in and wearing their Canucks jerseys that day. I saw somebody the other day walking down the street, and I thought, oh, there must be a game on, because there's a guy with a Canucks jersey on. And the unwritten rule is that you wear your jersey on game days around here. I happen to have my very own jersey, and I have been known to wear it during the playoffs. I think we've had a hockey strike here in North America this year, and I've just lost all interest this year. Maybe next year I'll get back on the bandwagon, but I'm paying no attention to hockey this year. And my jersey is sadly lonely in the drawer. During football season, you can see people wearing football jerseys too. Sometimes you can tell a person's interests by what they wear. Rock band shirts or shirts with logos on them, golf shirts, rugby shirts. Both Scott and another friend of ours wear beautiful shirts that were handmade for them in Africa because they've been there and they brought back some memories. When I was when we were in Africa a couple of years ago, I had an absolutely gorgeous dress and jacket made for me out of a material called seshweshwe. That is a heavy printed cotton, and it was made for me in the country of Lesotho when I was there. When I was in Paris, I bought a dress in a little village in Normandy. I bought a beautiful skirt from Sedona, Arizona when I was there. So, most of my stuff is secondhand, but when I travel, I love to buy at least one memory in the form of clothing. And I enjoy wearing those memories for years and years later because they are different and they're unusual and they're not part of any trend, so they last forever. So those are only some of the things that can be communicated by what you wear. And I'm sure you can come up with some more. So let's talk about this little experiment that you can try too, and then we'll get on to talking about professionalism and looking professional in the workplace. So the experiment that you can try for yourself that I send my students out to do is very eye-opening. I would love for you to do this and to let me know how it goes for you. So what happens is I ask people to go out to a place, a workplace, a retail place, whatever, a store, a place of business, dressed one way, and pay attention to how you're treated by the salespeople, by the customer service people, etc. And then the very next day or that day, whatever, go back dressed in a completely different way. So if you go out dressed up the first time, go out in, casual clothes or in your sweatshirts and stuff the next time, and pay attention. Because in general, people seem to be treated better, more politely, with more friendliness and courtesy, the better dressed they are. And I've had students come back and report that when they've gone into stores with no makeup, with fleece pants on, with backpacks, they've been followed around the store because the staff thought they might shoplift. They've had absolutely no attention paid to them. And the difference was startling when they would go back the next day dressed like they were going out to a club, all fancy, with their hair up, makeup on, cute little outfits, and they'd get all sorts of attention. And they're the same exact person walking into that store, and it's just the piece of cloth that they put on their bodies that has made the difference. I think that's extremely sad, don't you? I think it's extremely sad that we are judged by what we put on our bodies instead of who we are inside. But honestly, people, it's the truth. It's what happens. And it doesn't happen in every case, thank goodness, but it happens a lot. So pay attention to your judgments when you're looking at people, if you're paying attention to what they wear more than who they are inside. All right, so let's take a look at what to wear to work. And one of the first things that you need to do is to consider where it is you're going and what kind of image it is that you want to project. Because, believe it or not, you're going to be judged in the first 7 seconds. So the first impression is extremely powerful. So if you're going to if you're going to be going to an office, then you might want to know a few things before you get there. What kind of an office is this? Is this a very dress-me-up office? Is this a casual office? What is the image that you want to project at this office? And what is the dress code if there is one? Sometimes it's a safety issue. Are you allowed to wear high heels? I know in some offices you're not, so it depends. Find out about that. Must you wear a jacket and a tie if you're a man in this office? So find out in advance. Do some research about this first. And there are some things that aren't a good idea if you're trying to communicate competence and professionalism. And these are showing off too much leg or too much cleavage, whether you're male or female. Okay, so the hairy chest with the gold chains is not sexy, and you want to be careful about that in an office setting. Showing off your feet, your back, or your underwear is also not professional. So here's a little rule of thumb. If you wear it to the beach or to a dance, you can't wear it to work. Okay, so leave the workout clothes, the yoga pants at home, and definitely do not wear them to the office. Heavy aftershave and perfume can communicate a lack of confidence, believe it or not, and it can also induce allergic reactions. There are lots of workplaces that have scent-free policies. You can put a very light, subtle scent, which is actually more sophisticated and will be less likely to offend anyone. If it is a scent-free workplace, find that out in advance and make sure you're not wearing anything. Let's see. Wrinkled, dirty, or torn or frayed clothing communicates that you just don't care, which might be true, but it might not be true, and it won't help to make you seem more professional or to further your competency or the aura of your competency. Clothing needs to be clean. It needs to be in good repair. And in an office setting, be careful of messages on clothing. So be careful of words, of logos, of brand names, of images that might not fit with the ethos of the company that you're working for. You can wear those in your days off, but wearing a band t-shirt or something with words on it or logos, you might want to be careful about those kinds of things. It's best not to wear something that's got writing all over it. If your office is business casual, which is pretty common, then dress pants, dockers, which are cotton or synthetic materials, dress shirts, casual tops, sweaters, blouses, jackets, ties, all of those things. Dresses and skirts that come below the knee that don't ride up when you sit down are appropriate. Spaghetti straps and tops that show your belly are not in an office setting. Trends come and go. Those little half shirts hopefully are gone. But those are not flattering to most people, and they don't look good in a professional setting. Your shoes should be closed-toed. Things like flip-flops, sandals, and dressy spiked heels are not, and they might not even be safe insurance-wise. So if you end up twisting your ankle, you may not be covered. Running shoes and athletic shoes are also not usually appropriate unless they're black or they're not flashy or your workplace allows that kind of thing. Hats are not usually appropriate unless it is a religious or cultural headwear, which would be the exception. If you're working, some offices require you to wear a uniform, especially if you're in a medical office. So just be careful if you are in that kind of an office and you are supposed to wear a uniform. Find out what kinds of uniforms are acceptable. Some of the medical uniforms now are crazy looking. If you're working in a kid's dental office, that might be just fine. But find out, ask. It never hurts to ask what the dress code is in any office that you're working in. And again, you don't need to spend a whole lot of money if you don't have it to dress nicely. You can find beautiful things in consignment stores, thrift stores, and secondhand shops. And for me, both from an environmental standpoint and an expense perspective, I found this a great way to shop and to change over my wardrobe. And another thing about appearance, hair, makeup, and jewelry. If you're going to be all done up at work, just be mindful of that. You know, the false eyelashes, the piles of makeup, piles and piles of jewelry on. Depends again on the people and the style of your office. You don't want to be overdressed compared to everybody else in the office, and you don't want to be underdressed. So you want to be able to pay attention. A few choice pieces of jewelry will communicate that you have good taste, but you're not trying to show off. Tasteful makeup application, not makeup that looks like you're going to a club, unless, of course, you work in a club. But if you're working in an office, be careful of wearing too much makeup. And if you're not sure how to put makeup on, lots of the department stores will offer free lessons to help you. Hairstyle, again, it depends on what kind of office you work in. Probably something fairly straightforward, conservative. Some offices are getting a little more lenient and will allow things like funky hair colors and that. Just remember that piercings, tattoos, hair color, all of that kind of stuff will communicate messages. So pay attention to what message you want to project, what communication you want to share with other people, and because everything like that will communicate that. So it's really too bad that we do this to each other. It really is. We spend more time worrying about what a person has in their body than we do about what comes out of their mouths or what actions they take. And, I'm generalizing. There are a lot of people who don't do that, but it seems to be, from the experiments my students have conducted, and maybe the ones that you will conduct too, that this is a common thing. And I try to be a person who doesn't do that. It's really hard to do consistently, but I try not to form opinions about other people based on what they're wearing, if I can possibly help it. So I've talked for a long time now. I think I'm going to stop pretty quick here and let you get back to your life. But if you want to appear confident, if you want to appear good at your job, and if you want to seem professional, then do take some time to think about what it is you're going to put on your body. Take care about what it is that you wear to work, because it absolutely does make a difference. And if you're going for a job interview, once again, first impressions, right? The first 7 seconds. All right, I'm going to stop talking. I hope you've learned something about how much your clothing communicates about you to the world. And I really look forward to hearing your comments and your thoughts and your ideas on this topic. Please come over to www.communicationdiva.com and leave me a note in the comments section on the audio button there. You can leave me a message that way. And if you have any questions or any thoughts, any feedback at all, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. This is Jen Swanson with Communication Diva. Until next time, happy communicating.